lyric from one of their own numbers, and this Fox Undercover report, let's just say, murder was the case. Tupac Shakur, more than 5 months ago, looked down the barrel of a gun. And it was no death row music video when he was shot up in this car at a Las Vegas intersection. It was real life, real bullets, and real death. And according to police search warrant material obtained by Fox News, this is how it began. Here at the Lakewood Mall, a death row necklace similar to this one was grabbed from the neck of a Mob Piru gang member. Days later, this reputed thief, a rival South Side Crip gangster nicknamed Lando, was spotted, chased, and beaten by a death row entourage here at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Later the same night, police informants say Tupac Shakur took the fatal retaliation bullet, but the blast was heard in the halls of government. Former organized crime strike force attorney Marvin Rudnick.
The concern must be is that how big are these thugs that are shooting each other in streets of Las Vegas and Los Angeles? And where does the corruption begin and where does it end?
As we reported last night, convicted gang drug kingpin Michael Harry O'Harris says it began when he bankrolled Death Row Records with $1.5 million of his own money. And Harry claims while he was stuck in prison, he gave the money to Death Row CEO Suge Knight and defense attorney David Kenner. Since then, Death Row set up a film and record distribution deal with Interscope. And now, federal racketeering laws could raise goosebumps in corporate boardrooms.
Anyone who is involved, knowing that the profits from illegal activity, such as drug money, were being invested into a legitimate enterprise, has the danger of facing either a grand jury or jail.
All right,
Death Row's Knight is already in jail.
Call your next witness.
A government source close to his case tells Fox News, as the feds use tax laws to put away gangster Al Capone, a Suge probation violation can be used to keep him in prison for 9 years. And Death Row business agent Steve Kantrock, who last week was forced out of his job at the Coopers and Lybrand accounting firm for unethical conduct, has been hiding out for months, coming and going from his Calabasas home, concerned for his safety, avoiding questions about his potential status as a government witness. Some say Death Row, like a scene from one of its videos, is already blowing up. Even American Express this week filed suit against Kenner and Knight for refusing to pay a $1.5 million credit card bill. And sources close to Death Row, afraid to go on camera, say Tupac Shakur was one of a growing number of artists who felt Suge and Kenner were stiffing him on royalty payments. The producer of this Tupac Grammy-nominated single has already filed suit against Death Row. Johnny J says he produced 11 songs on Tupac's last album, which has sold 7 million copies. And he was only paid half of his advance and none of the royalties. He says honestly, Kenner won't even return his phone calls.
After a while, I felt like, well, we're not going to pay this guy. You know, we've got his work, we've got his music, so we can let him be. We can just let him go. We're done using him. That's how I felt like, man, I'm used and abused.
Ken and Lamont Brumfield,
I guess you live and you learn,
who are managers and producers of their own rap talent, feel the same way. At a party one night, the Brumfields introduced Suge Knight to a young rapper of theirs called Corrupt. The Brumfields discovered, fed, housed, and nurtured Corrupt for stardom. Their attorney explains it this way.
And the Brumfields had binding agreements with Corrupt in every single area where revenue would have been generated from his work.
But the Brumfields say Suge Knight simply stole Corrupt away and put him in a hit rap group called the Dog Pound. In return, the Brumfields got
not a dime, not one dime.
But my artist, he got a Lexus, dog, Corrupt. He had a Lexus and a house in the valley and a house in Marina with his dogs. You know,
Men say the Brumfields, Suge forced Corrupt to get a new manager, Sharitha Knight, Suge's wife, who runs Nightlife Management. In recent lawsuit depositions, Sharitha says with no previous management experience,
hit it, Lordy-dotty,
she somehow ended up with all Death Row's major talent.
And she didn't know anything about nothing, and I'll just leave it at that.
The Brumfields are suing, adding their names to a growing list of lawsuits that are critical of Death Row business methods. Among them, David Ruffin, another Death Row rapper who says he was beaten twice by members of the Dog Pound. Ruffin's attorney, Farhad Novian, was ready to go to trial until...
And shortly before the trial date, Mr. Ruffin disappeared, and as a result of his disappearance and his inability to make himself available to the defense for trial purposes, the case was dismissed.
Novian believes his client was bought off on the sly.
cut!
Those affiliated with Death Row a bit squeamish about more negative trial publicity.
Hey!
Meanwhile, Fox News has learned federal racketeering investigators are looking at Death Row with a possible RICO case in mind.
The lawyers are out there sharpening their knives to start helping people get out of their problems, if in fact this company was given birth by illegal money.
And if in fact the feds ever do file and win a racketeering case against Death Row, the government could end up owning a rap label. Meanwhile, Suge Knight and Death Row attorney David Kenner have still not responded to Fox requests for comment on this story.